For clarity, I should explain something about myself before continuing. I have a hearing disability that makes it difficult for me to hear clearly, especially in unfamiliar or quiet environments. I accept that there are things in this world I may never fully understand, but one experience from about a year ago continues to haunt me. It happened shortly after the holiday season ended, when life finally slowed down after family gatherings and travel. I live in a peaceful suburban neighborhood in southern Quebec, right on the edge of a forest. Most neighbors know each other, which gives the area a comforting sense of familiarity. During winter, I often take my dog, Monty, for walks through the nearby forest. He's a Rottweiler and Husky mix, full of energy and perfect for long walks or runs. The forest has several easy trails, nothing extreme. One cold February afternoon, after a late lunch, I decided to take Monty out. Snow had fallen overnight, covering the trails in a clean white layer. As usual, I let him off his leash. Boot prints and dog marks told me others had been there earlier. Most people walk before noon, so I didn't expect anyone else around. After about 30 minutes, we reached a fork in the trail. One path looked untouched, which made me curious. Feeling a bit adventurous, I chose it. I knew these trails well, so I wasn't worried. The path opened into a clearing, and I stopped to use the binoculars I'd received for Christmas. While scanning the tree line, I noticed something unusual. Zooming in, I saw a blue tarp and what looked like a makeshift shelter. Curiosity pulled at me, but darkness was approaching, and I decided it was best to head home. As we turned back, Monty ran ahead, but began behaving strangely. He sniffed the ground intensely and stayed unusually alert. That's when I noticed footprints in the snow. They were large, much bigger than mine. I compared them to my boots, confused. They didn't match. There were no other forks in the trail, meaning whoever made them must have passed me without my noticing. I assumed it happened while I was distracted with the binoculars. Though uneasy, I brushed it off and continued walking as the forest slowly grew darker. Suddenly, Monty stopped and barked violently. I turned around and froze. A tall man stood barely a meter behind me, wearing dark snow pants and a white camouflage jacket. His hands were buried in his pockets, and he didn't move. I didn't recognize him from the neighborhood. His lips moved as if he were speaking, but I couldn't hear him or read his mouth clearly. I tried to signal that I was hard of hearing and that it was getting late. Eventually, I walked away. I reached home around 4:30 p.m., and by then, darkness had fully settled in. That night felt normal until I woke suddenly to Monty licking my hand. It was only 3 in the morning. I noticed a message from my neighbor asking if everything was okay because Monty had been barking nonstop. Confused, I realized Monty wasn't in my room. Downstairs, he stood at the patio door, barking hysterically. As the motion light turned on outside, my heart dropped. The same man from the forest was standing in my backyard, staring at the house, completely unmoving. I didn't hesitate. I backed away and texted 911 as fast as I could. I grabbed a machete from under my bed and locked myself in the room with Monty. I have training in martial arts, but I knew survival meant avoiding confrontation. Monty suddenly leaped up and began barking at the bedroom door. A shadow slid beneath it, stretching across the floor. I waited, shaking, expecting the door to burst open. It never did. When police arrived, they found the patio door smashed and the backyard gate wide open, leading directly into the forest. I told them about the shelter I had seen earlier. I stayed with a family friend while repairs were made. I never heard back from the police. Since then, I avoid forest trails entirely. I stick to open roads, trying not to dwell on what might have happened if Monty hadn't warned me. That experience taught me how thin the line is between safety and danger, especially when familiarity makes you feel protected. Sometimes, the quietest places hide the darkest intentions. My name is Ember. I'm 16. Living in Illinois with my 15-year-old sister, Kate. One December morning, we planned a movie trip. We snuck into an R-rated horror movie, relying on the fact that we looked older than we were. Halfway through, my phone buzzed loudly. It was my dad, asking if we could bring him lunch, because the cafe near his work was closed. It seemed normal. So we agreed. We packed the food and drove to the wooded area where he worked, never suspecting anything was wrong. The woods were beautiful, calm, and familiar. We followed his instructions through text, walking toward the lake as the sun began to set early, painting the sky orange. Near the dock, we saw a man sitting with his back to us. We assumed it was our dad. When he didn't respond, unease crept in. I pulled down his hood. It wasn't our father. He turned slowly, smiling, holding my dad's phone. Suddenly, he lunged and grabbed Kate's arm. I tore her free, and we ran. We barely reached the car. The man rushed toward us, but I reversed and sped away. At home, our parents were waiting. My dad explained his phone had been stolen earlier that day. Police tracked it to the dock and recovered it. Hours later, at 1 a.m, I received a message. It said, "I like how your house is lit by your bedroom TV." My blood ran cold. I heard rustling outside. When I looked, the man stood there, smiling, pointing a gun at my window. The glass shattered when he fired. We locked ourselves in a bedroom and called 911. Police later found an air tag attached to our car tire. He had followed us home. Months passed without him being caught. He never returned, but the fear never left. I learned a hard lesson that night silence, unease, and instinct should never be ignored, especially when someone else's life depends on you. The final story happened in 2021, during the height of COVID. I worked from home and left late one night to visit family during a snowstorm. Roads were barely plowed, and my old car wasn't built for weather like that. After hours of driving and a short visit, I left after midnight, tired and overconfident. Snow had piled up dangerously. On a quiet road, my car skidded and slammed into a tree. I wasn't badly hurt, but my car was buried and completely stuck. Roadside assistance said help would take at least 40 minutes. I called my dad to come wait with me. While sitting in the car, I heard footsteps crunching in the snow. When I stepped out, the sound stopped, replaced by wet, slurping noises near the tree line. I saw movement, but no clear figure. I returned to the car and locked the doors. Something hit the window. When I stepped out again, I found boot prints circling my car and leading into the woods long with drops of blood. Armed, I followed the trail. It led to a dead deer, ripped open and decapitated. The head was gone. Terrified, I returned to my car. Opening the door made my stomach drop. The deer's severed head sat in the driver's seat, placed carefully, staring straight ahead. I ran down the road until headlights appeared. It was my dad. When we returned, the head and body were gone, leaving only blood and drag marks in the snow. The tow truck arrived. I chose not to call the police. I was exhausted and shaken beyond words. To this day, I don't know who or what was in those woods or what they wanted. Maybe fear was the goal. Maybe something worse. All I know is this: winter hides more than cold, and sometimes the silence is the loudest warning of all.